Certain Social Security beneficiaries can expect to receive checks this week worth all the way up to $5,181. Plus, next week, a new report is going to be released that's going to give us an even better idea of what the next increase is going to be for all Social Security beneficiaries. So in today's video, we are going to be covering everything that you need to know. But before we go ahead and dive into it for today, if you would like to receive $300 in pretty much completely passive income, in a pinned comment below, I will be leaving a link where you can sign up for Capital One 360 checking. You see right now, Capital One is running a promotion where if you sign up for one of their 360 checking accounts, and you make two separate deposits within the first 75 days from your account opening, in return, Capital One will be giving you a bonus of $300 just for doing so. Now, as far as those deposits go, they can either be like your Social Security benefit check, it can be a pension, it can be a paycheck from your job. Anything like that counts. And in return, Capital One will be giving you a bonus of $300 just for doing so. And in return, I may also be eligible for a commission as well, which of course I would greatly appreciate you supporting my channel. But as always, terms and conditions do apply. Okay, so diving right into it for today. So once again, we have a new Social Security increase coming up that is going to be announced in just a few months, actually less than 3 months to be exact. It will be released on exactly October 14th of this year, and coming up later on next week, we're going to have a new report released, which is going to give us an even better idea of what the next cost of living adjustment increase is going to look like for all Social Security beneficiaries. Now, the formula they use is called the Consumer Price Index for Urban Wage Earners or Clerical Workers, or CPIW for short. And actually, over the years, they've actually gone back and looked, and that's actually kind of a sort of a flawed formula because, you know, the average retiree, they don't typically spend on the same things at the same rate as those who would, typically be, like working age and things like that. So for example, retirees typically, spend a little bit less on transportation than those, still in the workforce and a little bit younger, whereas they might, spend a little bit more on healthcare. Retirees are going to spend a little bit more on healthcare than those in the younger age brackets. So that is why this flawed formula actually causes the COLAs to actually be less than what they should be on an annual basis. But this year, it's actually shaping up to be, sort of in the advantage of Social Security. So let's go ahead and dive into this article here by the Motley Fool. They say the average retiree's Social Security benefits have lost 13.7% of their buying power since 2010, according to an analysis by the Senior Citizens League. Why? Social Security cost of living adjustments aren't keeping up with inflation, even though that's exactly what they're supposed to do. There's a simple explanation for this reality. Social Security uses a flawed inflation metric for calculating the annual COLA, but so far in 2026, this flaw hasn't hurt retirees much. Now, as far as the flaw in fix goes, the Social Security Administration calculates the annual COLA using the Consumer Price Index for Urban Wage Earners and Clerical Workers. Specifically, SSA compares the CPIW for the third quarter of the current year with the CPIW for the same period in the previous year. The percentage difference, if any, is rounded to the near 0.1% to obtain the COLA. That wouldn't be a bad approach, except for one glaring issue. The CPIW is not designed to reflect the prices of products and services purchased by seniors. For example, healthcare in retirement is one of the biggest expenses in older Americans' budgets, but it receives a much lower weight in the CPIW than it should. There is a fix to this flaw. Another inflation metric, the Consumer Price Index for the elderly, is specifically designed to track the purchasing behavior of older individuals. The weighting differences between the CPIE and the CPIW are striking. So for example, healthcare costs make up around 11.3% of the CPIE versus only 6.9% for the CPIW. Now, as far as why 2026 is actually an exception, they said that in most years, the CPIE year-over-year increase is well above the increase for the CPIW. However, 2026 is an exception. So in the June inflation report released by the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, the CPIW increased by 3.5% over the previous 12 months, whereas the CPIE rose by 3.6%, only slightly above the 3.5% rate. In May, the CPIW increased by 4.4% compared to the CPIE's 4.2%, and Social Security's inflation metric flaw isn't as problematic this year. That is because it's primarily because of the Iran war is a key factor driving higher prices. Oil and gas prices have risen sharply. Energy is one area where working age Americans and retirees feel the pain from rising prices relatively equally. So if we look back before the Iran war began, the gap between the two inflation metrics, of course, was much greater. So for example, back in January of this year, the CPIW increased by 2.2% year over year, well below the increase of 2.6% for the CPIE. So again, because of the war in Iran right now, we have oil and energy prices much higher than what they were before, causing the CPIW to actually at this point in time be higher than the CPIE. Now, of course, next week we have a big day coming up, which is going to give us an even better idea of what the next COLA increase is going to look like for 2027. So you can see the release dates for inflation by the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics. So coming up on August 12th, that it will be, should be next Wednesday. August 12th, we're going to have the inflation data for the month of July. Now, the three most important inflation months are going to be July, August, and September. July's inflation is released in August, August's inflation is released in September, and September's inflation is released in October. So on October 14th, that is when we're going to know exactly what the COLA increase is going to be looking like. But of course, coming up on August 12th, that is going to give us the first number of the three most important numbers. So that is going to be absolutely huge. Now, also this week, actually today, to be exact, we have more checks being sent out by the Social Security Administration. These checks are going to be worth all the way up to $5,181, with the average coming in much closer to $2,000. So according to Newsweek, they say a round of Social Security payments will be made on Monday, August 3rd, for two types of beneficiaries. The first, SSI recipients who also collect Social Security. The second, those who have been claiming Social Security benefits since before May of 1997. Beneficiaries whose payments do not arrive on a scheduled date are advised to wait 3 working days before contacting the SSA. Now, as far as how much Social Security is, they say Social Security retirement benefits are calculated using a person's earnings record and the age at which they began collecting payments. Eligible workers may start claiming benefits from age 62, although doing so results in a lower monthly payment than waiting until the full retirement age or later. Workers generally need 40 Social Security credits to qualify for retirement benefits, and because no more than 4 credits can be earned each year, most people must work for roughly 10 years before becoming eligible. In 2026, someone who earned the maximum amount subject to Social Security taxes throughout their career could receive approximately $4,152 a month if they claimed at their full retirement age. Starting benefits at age 62 would lower the payment to about $2,969, while waiting all the way until the age of 70 could raise it all the way up to $5,181 per month. Now, SSI is calculated a little bit differently. So rather than being based on age and employment history, SSI is a needs-based program for the people who are blind, disabled, or have limited income and resources. In 2026, the maximum federal SSI payment is $994 a month for an individual, although the amount may be reduced depending on their income and financial circumstances. So also coming up later in August, we have checks going out on August 12th, August 19th, and August 26th. So if you're born between the 1st and 10th of any given month, you'll receive a check on August 12th. You'll receive a check on the 19th of August if you're born between the 11th and 20th of any given month. And then finally, the last checks going out on August will be on August 26th. If you're born between the 21st and 31st of any given month, you will be receiving your check on August 26th. So with that said, that is all we have for today's video. As always, drop a comment below. But that is all we have for today's video. And as always, I will see you in the next one.